Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. We're continuing our reading of the Tafseer. Hope you're doing great. So, let's dig into it. We're in Surah Al-Baqarah to 141. This is a nation which has already passed away. They will have what they earned, and you will have what you earned. And you will not be questioned about what they used to do. Yeah, this gives me hope, because I think sometimes, even though this has a specific context, yet, hear me out. You have to think in a way like, man, you gotta do your best, but you just gotta keep doing what you can do to try to help cause a positive ripple effect and influence so that, any nation, any person of any nation can look at you and become a better person, right? But even if you fail and they're doing things, it's not gonna reflect you. You still just gotta focus on your own, right? There's no collective guilt of you and your nation. What you're doing is what you're doing. The meaning of this verse has been discussed above. It is repeated in order to put an end to anyone pinning his hopes on any created being. What matters is the attributes that a person acquires. Okay, so what kind of attributes are we acquiring? Not the deeds of his forefathers. Exactly. So this is interesting because listen here. Not the deeds of your forefathers. So when Elijah Muhammad of the Nation of Islam tries to outrage African Americans against whites and saying that, the maker wants to genocide whites, that is no. Remember in his book, he said that then God was going to punish America because of her record with slavery, which is a little odd because slavery was all over the world. So it was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And then today we have different kind of forms of wage slavery. I mean, we have different forms of it now. Debt slavery, right? We have weird forms of it now. More weird modern contexts, hybrids of it, right? But here it's like my part of my family's Native American and Italian. If someone in my family went to war with another tribe, I have no collective guilt over that. If any of my family liked Mussolini in Italy when he was in power, that's not my problem. And if any of them were hung out with Sicilian mobsters or Calabrian mobsters, that's not my fault. No, I'm not guilty of anything just because I share the same color or bloodline or landmass. I'm doing what I'm doing. You can't put the blame on me, right? Unless I voted for it or participated in it or condoned it and such, right? So here, attributes of the person is way more important than anything your forefathers did, right? And this is from a guy who knows, right? That's why you can trust stuff. What really benefits the individual is his deeds and not his lineage. So you see that? That's why it's so beneficial to actually read Islamic texts for yourself and don't just take, hate mongers' opinions and be like, hey, are you saying something that's actually theologically correct, or are you just rambling off your own anger and your own resentment and framing it as religious, right? So again, boom, we just learned something, so I put like a double annotation next to it. Okay, this is 142 through 143. The fools among the people will say, what has turned them from the Qibla direction of prayer towards which they used to face? Say, to Allah belong the east and the west. He guides whom He will to a path that is straight. Thus we have made of you an ummah justly balanced, that you might be a witness over humankind, and the messenger might be a witness over you, and we prescribed the Qibla towards which you used to face, only in order to know those who would follow the messenger from those who would turn on their heels. It was indeed difficult, except for those whom Allah guided. Allah will never let your faith go to waste, for Allah is to all people most compassionate, most merciful. Now, who would turn and who would not turn? the most compassionate, the most merciful. Won't let your faith go to waste. Because, see, that's an important one. Because it's weird. It's like some people be like, why do you need to pray this many times a day? You shouldn't do that. You're wasting your time. Any negative thing someone can say. Oh, well, you're praying, but nothing's coming better in your life. Or I don't feel like it does anything. Or I don't see immediate, like, requital or anything. And it's like, here it tells you right in the Quran, 143 in Surah Al-Baqarah, it's not going to go to waste. It's just deferred for your appointed time. The first verse is miraculous and offers consultation and reassurance to the believers. It discusses an objection and the answer to it in 3 ways. It gives a description of the ones who raised this objection, and a description of the one who submits to the ruling and religion of Allah. Okay, perfect. So, consolation and reassurance, so it's glad tidings, and then accurately describes the ignorance of those who would object, and then talks about, a beneficial way for those who will submit. Here Allah, glory be to Him, tells us that the fools among the people are going to raise this objection. They are the ones who do not know what is good for themselves. Rather, they cause loss for themselves and sell their souls for cheaper price. Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna skip 2 things here because it's that right here is a little bit of his opinion, which I should skip. The background here is that the Muslims were enjoined to face towards Bayt al-Maqdis, Jerusalem. Okay, here we go. For the duration of their time in Mecca. Then approximately 1.5 years after the migration of Hijrah to Medina by His wisdom, Allah commanded them to face towards the Kaaba. So I remember Mufti Malik said it's about synchronization, like it's about getting in harmony, it's like unity. It's cyclical, right? Then he told with the universe, right, with each other. Then he told them that the fools among the people would inevitably say, what has turned them from the Qibla, direction of the prayer toward which they used to face? For they used to face towards Jerusalem. So what has made them turn away from it? This is an objection to Allah's ruling, law, grace, and kindness. So Allah consoled the believers by telling that what was going to happen and pointing out it would only come from those who were foolish, lacking in reason, forbearance, and religious commitment. So do not pay attention to them, because you know where this talk is coming from. So if they face somewhere different, don't worry about it. You gotta focus where you gotta focus. If it says face the Qibla, you face the Qibla. The wise person pays no attention to the objections of the fool and does not worry about him. That sounds a lot like the lion doesn't pay attention to the opinions of the sheep. This verse indicates that no one objects to the rulings of Allah, but one who is foolish, ignorant, and stubborn. As for the wise and rational believer, he accepts the rulings of his Lord and submits to them, as Allah, glory be to Him, says, it is not fitting for any believing man or believing woman when Allah and His Messenger have decided concerning a matter, to have any choice in that matter. Al-Ahzab 33:36. But no, by your Lord, they will not truly believe until they make you, O Muhammad, judge in all disputes between them. Then find in their hearts no reservations about your verdicts, but accept them wholeheartedly. An-Nisa 4:65. Judge all disputes between them. They will not believe until you actually judge in all disputes. It's quite a lot of disputes to settle, right? The only response of the believers when they are called to Allah and His Messenger, so that He may judge between them, is to say, we hear and we obey. An-Nur 24:51. So we hear and we obey. I remember when I was taking that Jewish scriptures class, they said that when God went around to different nations and asked them, I have a book here, or like, will you accept it? Others asked too many questions. What the nation of Israel, or they say, the person Israel, the people Israel, you know what I mean? But that they said, oh, we hear and we obey. So that's interesting that here in An-Nur mentions that, and then also in the Jewish Torah, or I think you would say the oral Torah, what the rabbis contend is why God chose Israel, the Jews, for the first contact, right? But here this is interesting because it says that we as believers, as Muslims, you have to say, you hear and you obey. You're doing your best. You're gonna do what you gotta do. You're gonna be a rational person and be wise. Not be ignorant. Don't be stubborn. And don't pay attention to the objections of fools. And to trust in Allah and make sure you face towards the Kaaba.